Common Core standards are discussed in this article. Common Core standards were implemented a couple of years ago. They kind of became a big thing and everyone ran with it, and we're going to look at this. This is an article, a little bit older article, and it talks about Common Core and how you should ask questions going into it on implementation. 46 states and the District of Columbia have committed to fully implement the Common Core state standards by the fall of 2013. That would be this year right here. So by fall of this year, Common Core standards should be or have been implemented. Many people would say or ask, why has the state of Mississippi adopted Common Core, and why are these 46 states doing this? Remember that the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution says that education is the rights of the state. So therefore, each state controls their own destiny when it comes to education. However, there are some federal guidelines we have to go through, and those federal guidelines would be integration, for example. When the federal court cases, Brown versus Board of Education, stated that separate but equal was unconstitutional, then all the schools had to follow that. So even though the state rights are education, the federal government and federal law has to be followed. However, Common Core is not a law that we have to implement. It is nothing like integration. It is nothing like gay rights that we have to follow by federal courts. So what is pushing this Common Core movement? It is the power of the purse. The federal government has invited each state to follow Common Core, and if they do, they will receive federal money. One big example of this was Race to the Top. Race to the Top was President Obama's big push to get all the states for federal money. And what he did was, he said, any state who wants these millions of dollars in available funds, they would need to do several things. And one was to implement a Common Core policy. The second one was to have a teacher merit pay system. And there was some other areas like that. Well, all the states ran for it and they applied for it, and only a handful of states got it. Mississippi did not get it. However, with the hopes of another race for the top, all the states have realized that they lost a lot of money out by not having that, so now they're getting ready for the next big money drop, if there is one. So I would like to ask you, or really encourage you, to Google Race to the Top, as well as Common Core. But really look at the Race to the Top and look how that happened. This article is just a basic guide for Common Core and how people should ask questions going into it. It says, implemented well, the new standards will help us accomplish something advocates have been working towards for a long time, getting schools to raise their sights for our children, engaging all of them. So instead of having state standards, we're going to have also Common Core, which are national standards that we can look for. In almost every state, the new standards look very different from what came before. Now, Mississippi standards came from the Mississippi Framework, which came from the National Council for Social Studies, the social sciences areas, the English academies. So every state had different standards. So with a Common Core, we're going to identify some common standards nationwide. Questions to ask. What is our state's plans for implementing Common Core? At what point will all teachers at all grade levels be fully teaching to the new standards? So you want to ask these questions, and especially with 2013 right here, let's see if these questions have been answered. Some examples, they said New York set a goal for every teacher to implement at least one unit of Common Core in 2011-2012. One unit would be like 2 weeks of instruction. Up here it says communications. When will the parents start hearing about the new standards? When educators are excited about what they are experiencing in standards-related professional development, their enthusiasm will come across clearly to parents and will be contagious. It's not that Common Core is bad. Common Core brings with it new standards, new expectations for students. However, if the teachers are not on board, or if they are confused, then that's not going to clearly communicate that to the teachers and to the parents. So, what would we think the level of excitement is today? With Common Core coming in and should be fully implemented in August of 2013, are we ready for it? The Common Core standards assessments will almost certainly result in a significant drop in student proficiency rates and in wider gaps between groups of students. As teachers begin teaching to the standards of performance expected on the exams, the work that children are assigned should, frankly, be tougher than what came before. Parents who are used to their children getting easy A's or performing at a proficient or advanced level without breaking a sweat are likely to see lower grades. What would that do to schools if a senior ended up with a C instead of a B and they're going into college? Rather, they're a reversal of long standard pattern of inflating performance. And we all can agree on that there is a grade inflation going on in high schools. And we're seeing a lot of that when students go to college. I can bring up many research articles, but a lot of students who go to college think that they're not properly prepared for the toughness of a college class. And we see a lot of that. I'm on the Academic Appeals Committee, and when students do not score the grade they believe they deserve, then they'll usually appeal that. The problem is many appeals are denied basically because the student's argument is generally always the same. It's always, I had an issue that arose. I got sick, or I didn't do my class, or the professor didn't allow me to do missed work, make up work, which that's just not a valid excuse in college because you have the withdrawal date. You can always withdraw from a class if something's going on. But to take an ELF and then want to appeal it, you really have to show that the professor has erred in their grading. So that'd be an issue. So we do reverse grades. However, we get a lot of that high school mentality sometimes, especially in our freshman college classes. We'll have students who they'll say, well, I couldn't make it to class, and they gave a test and I wasn't allowed to make it up. Well, in college, that's just the way it is. So maybe we need to have tougher standards in high school, and that's what Common Core is asking for, are tougher standards. How will the community develop with that? How will they respond to tougher standards? Another question I ask is, what's the state's plan for communicating the new standards to the public? I would safely say that Mississippi has not done a good job with this, and I love Mississippi, but a lot of parents in the communities, especially in Lauderdale County, do not know much about the Common Core. How is the state planning to communicate likely changes in student proficiency scores? Are we okay with schools losing their levels of accreditation? As we scroll down, how are teachers and school leaders getting information about the standards? Is there a pipeline from the schools to the State Department? Are there good instructions? Who's responsible for developing or acquiring the high quality instructional materials? Who's doing the test? Who's doing the textbooks? There is nothing simple about implementation of the Common Core in high schools. With a clear goal of college and career readiness for all. This catches on to what our former superintendent talked about, which I was so excited about. It was a superintendent that was known as Hank Bounds, and he was a former superintendent, I think at Pascagoula, and he becomes the superintendent of education in the state of Mississippi. He called for what was known as a 50-level VOTEC system. Our VOTEC system now is okay, but a 50-level VOTEC system would be amazing. And what he started arguing is, if a student wanted to be a welder and said, I don't want to go to college, I want to be a welder, then you could put them on a welding track that would get them a high school diploma, obviously, but also have them a job waiting when they left at the local place doing welding. If a student wanted to work at the Nissan plant or the Honda plant or Toyota, then there would be obviously a high school diploma and the skills ready to do that. And that would also bring in more jobs for us, because we could say, look, BMW, if you wish to do a plant in Columbus, Mississippi, we can do a VOTEC system which will guide some of our students into your factory if they want that. Now, the student would still have a high school diploma, which everyone would receive by earning it by doing the Common Core, but by also doing the 50-level VOTEC system, they'd have an expanded VOTEC system which would allow them to do that. kind of modeled after the German model. The German model was amazing. They actually have an apprenticeship and a master level. What students can do is they can get their high school diploma and also become like a master electrician by doing an apprenticeship with an electrician until they're around 27. And at 27, they'd be a master electrician, which makes a lot of money and does very well. So that's what we was wanting to do. Unfortunately, the program was adopted, and then the funding never got there, and the whole thing went away very quickly. So with Common Core, we're going back to that. We need to prepare students for college and the real world, or factory and the real world, whatever they want to do. But are we ready for that? Who is guiding implementation of Common Core at the school level? Far too many students, especially low-income students and students of color, the article says, are far below even the two low standards in place in many states now. So what are we going to do to catch up students? What are we going to do with minority students? When Hispanic students come in and English is not their primary language, how are we going to catch them up a little bit? And that's what that next section down here talks about. Does the state provide guidance to districts and schools? Down here, English language learners. Are we going to help students who are struggling with English? Technology, Common Core argues for Common Core. They're still working on that. And then here's the big one, aligning teacher evaluation policy. The teacher evaluation policy is supposed to be in line with a merit pay system according to Common Core and Race to the Top. And that's why whenever our new governor took office, he did a speech and he said we need to have a merit pay system in Mississippi. It wasn't really to stress the merit pay system needs to be implemented. It was kind of a message to the federal government. Look, Mississippi is serious about this, so the next time we have a Race to the Top grant, we would like to be considered because we're doing everything you say. Aligning finance policy, aligning accountability policy. So as you look at the state standards in No Child Left Behind and you see what the whole Common Core is, so what is Common Core compared to No Child Left Behind? We're going to get into No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind was President Bush's legacy. It was his big thing. Common Core became President Obama's big thing. So now you kind of get an idea. This is a really good article. One thing I would like you to do is just jump over here to the Mississippi Department of Education website, and you'll see it right here, and just go to their Google search box and type in Common Core. And you'll see a result that says Common Core State Standards. And this is Mississippi State Department of Education, their Common Core Standards website. Look at this if you can and see what they're saying and see if this is enough for training for teachers. You know, we have math and ELA, and they have some training modules here. So look at that and see what you think about it and see if that's